When my son got married, I hid the mansion I inherited from his grandfather. Thank God I didn't say a word, because right after the wedding, I found his new wife standing over my bed at 3 a.m., holding my will. Hold on a moment before we move forward. Let us know where in the world you're watching from. And if you're loving these stories, don't forget to hit subscribe. Tomorrow's episode is going to be absolutely mind-blowing. The wedding was small, just 23 people at the courthouse in downtown Asheville, then dinner at Morrison's Steakhouse. I paid for everything, $8,500 total. David wanted something simple, he said. Samantha agreed, smiling that bright smile of hers. We'd rather save money for our future, Margaret, she told me. You understand, right? I understood. I always understood. That's what mothers do. The ceremony was on June 10th. By June 13th, I knew I'd made a terrible mistake trusting her. It started at exactly 3:17 in the morning. I know the time because I opened my eyes and saw my digital alarm clock first, the red numbers glowing in the darkness. Then I saw her. Samantha stood next to my bed, not at the foot, not in the doorway, right beside me, close enough that I could smell her perfume. She was holding my document box, the metal one I keep in my closet behind my winter coats, the box that holds my will, my passport, everything important. The box was open. My will was in her hands. She was reading it by the light of her cell phone, the screen casting a blue glow across her face. Her lips were moving slightly, like she was memorizing something. This wasn't random. This wasn't her looking for aspirin. She had gone through my closet, found the box, opened it. How long had she been standing there while I slept? My heart was hammering so hard, I thought she'd hear it. I kept my eyes almost closed, watching her through my lashes, barely breathing. Every instinct screamed at me to sit up, to demand what she was doing. But something stopped me. Let her think you're still sleeping. Let her think she got away with it. Samantha carefully folded my will and put it back. Then she took out her phone and photographed several other documents. I heard the soft click of the camera shutter. 3 times, 4 times, 5. When she finally closed the box and turned to leave, she paused, looked back at me. I forced my breathing to stay slow and even. After what felt like forever, she whispered, "Just checking what's really yours, Margaret." Then she walked out. I heard my apartment door closing a minute later. I lay there in the darkness, staring at that clock. 3:17 became 3:18, then 3:19. My hands were shaking. I'd welcomed this woman into my family 3 days ago. 3 days. And already she was going through my most personal documents in the middle of the night. What was she looking for? The worst part was knowing David had given her a key. 2 weeks before the wedding, he'd asked me, "Mom, can Sam have a spare key? Just in case there's an emergency and you need help?" How could I say no to that? But this wasn't an emergency. This was something else entirely. I got up around 4:30 and made coffee with trembling hands. My apartment suddenly felt unsafe, like she'd poisoned it somehow. Just by being here. My will is simple. Everything I have goes to David. This apartment, my savings, my car. It's not much. $67,000 in the bank, a 2015 Honda Civic. After 30 years working as a nurse, that's what I had to show for it. But that's not actually everything I have. 4 years ago, my father-in-law, Robert Chen Sr., died at 89. He was a quiet man, careful with money his whole life. He'd owned a small printing business, lived in a modest house. Everyone thought he'd saved maybe $200,000 or $300,000. The reading of his will was the biggest shock of my life. Robert Sr. had bought properties in 1967, 6.4 acres in Biltmore Forest, one of the most exclusive areas in Asheville. He'd built a mansion there in 1972, 6,400 square feet, and he'd never told anyone, not his son, My late husband, not me, not David. The property was worth $2.3 million when he died. He left it to me in an irrevocable trust, not to David, to me, with specific instructions. I could live there if I wanted, but I could never sell it. When I died, it would pass to David, but only if certain conditions were met. Robert Sr.'s lawyer, Charles Harrison, had explained everything in May 2019. Robert wanted to make sure you were taken care of first, Margaret. Your son would inherit eventually, but only if he demonstrated what Robert called moral character worthy of the family name. I'd never told David about the mansion. I kept living in my apartment, paying rent of $1,450 a month. I kept driving my Honda. I kept living exactly as I always had. Why? Because Robert Sr. didn't want his grandson to know about money he hadn't earned. He wanted David to build his own life, and I'd honored that wish. Now I wondered if that decision had been a mistake, because Samantha had gone through my documents looking for something, and the only thing in my will was this apartment and my modest savings. If she knew about the mansion, she'd find no record of it in my personal papers. The trust was managed entirely by Charles Harrison's law firm. But what if she suspected something? David and Samantha had only known each other for 18 months. When he introduced us in January of last year, I'd been happy, relieved. I wanted my son to have someone. But from the beginning, something felt off. Samantha was charming, but it was a performance. Everything was calculated, and she asked questions, casual questions that seemed innocent. Did David's grandfather leave him anything? What neighborhood did Robert Sr. live in? I heard Biltmore Forest is beautiful. Did the family ever have property out there? I'd brushed it off, but now I knew better. I heard footsteps in the hallway around 7:30. Then voices, David and Samantha. The key turned in my lock. "Mom!" David called out. "You up? We brought bagels." I walked into the living room. David was carrying a paper bag. Samantha stood beside him in yoga pants and an expensive jacket, her hair in a perfect ponytail. She looked fresh and rested, like she hadn't been invading someone's privacy 4 hours earlier. "Good morning," I said. My voice came out steadier than I expected. Samantha smiled. "Morning, Margaret. We thought we'd bring breakfast." She walked into my kitchen completely comfortable, like she belonged here. I watched her set out paper plates, arrange the bagels, pour orange juice into my glasses. Then she turned to me and said, "I slept so well last night, Margaret. Best sleep I've had in weeks. Did you sleep well?" Her eyes were locked on mine, waiting, testing. I forced myself to smile back, like a rock. Didn't wake up once. Something flickered across her face. Satisfaction, maybe. She opened my refrigerator, pulled out cream cheese. "That's wonderful. I'm so glad you're resting well at your age. It's important." David was in the living room, checking his phone, oblivious. Samantha brought me a bagel. Our fingers touched as I took the plate, and she held on a moment too long, making sure I felt it. "By the way," she said casually, "I had the strangest dream last night. I dreamed that you had so much more than anyone realized. Funny, right?" My throat went dry. "Very funny." She reached into her pocket and pulled out my spare key, held it up between 2 fingers. "I should probably give this back. David gave it to me before the wedding, but I haven't even used it yet." "Oh, wait, that's not true." She laughed. "I used it this morning to let us in. Silly me." She placed the key on my counter with a soft click. "But you should keep it," I heard myself say. "For emergencies." Her smile widened. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." "Well then." She picked up the key and slipped it back into her pocket. "Thank you, Margaret. You're so generous." After they left, I stared at my closet door, at the space where my document box lived. I walked over, pulled it out, opened it. Everything was there. Nothing was missing. But everything was different now. I bought the camera on Amazon. $49.99. It arrived in 2 days. A small black cube that looked like a phone charger. The listing said it could record for up to 8 hours on motion detection. Perfect for what I needed. Installing it took me 20 minutes. I'm not good with technology, but the instructions were simple enough. I placed it on the bookshelf in my home office, behind a row of nursing textbooks I hadn't opened in years. The lens pointed directly at my desk, where I kept my laptop and filing cabinet. If Samantha came back, I'd have proof this time. That was June 18th, 5 days after she'd stood over my bed at 3:17 in the morning. 5 days of pretending everything was normal, of smiling when she called, of acting like I didn't know what she'd done. The camera caught her on June 21st, a Tuesday night. I was at my book club that evening, like I am every third Tuesday of the month. We meet at the library from 7 to 9. I'd mentioned it to David earlier that week when he'd called to check on me. Just casual conversation. "How are you, Mom?" "I'm fine, sweetheart. Book club on Tuesday, then grocery shopping on Wednesday." I didn't think anything of it at the time. When I got home at 9:30, everything looked normal. Nothing out of place. My apartment door was locked, but when I checked the camera footage the next morning, my hands started shaking so badly. I almost dropped my laptop. The timestamp said 7:47 p.m. Samantha entered my office first, using that spare key. She went straight to my filing cabinet and started opening drawers. Methodical, not frantic or rushed, like she'd done this before, or at least thought about it carefully. Then at 7:52 p.m., another woman entered, older, maybe early 60s, with short gray hair and a nervous way of moving. She kept looking toward the door like she expected someone to walk in. Samantha glanced at her. "Relax, Mom. She's at book club until 9. We have plenty of time." Mom. So this was Linda Whitmore, Samantha's mother, the woman I'd met exactly twice, once at a dinner 4 months ago, once at the wedding. Both times she'd been quiet, almost meek, complimenting everything, agreeing with everything. I'd thought she was just shy. Now I watched her pull files from my cabinet, photograph pages with her phone, put everything back carefully. She was wearing gloves, latex gloves, like the ones I used to wear at the hospital. "There's nothing here," Linda said after about 10 minutes. Her voice sounded strained. "Just bills and medical records. Are you sure she has something hidden?" Samantha sat down at my desk and opened my laptop. David said his grandfather owned property in Asheville, Biltmore Forest, specifically. He mentioned it once years ago, before we were married. Said his mom never talks about it. My chest tightened. David had mentioned the property. When? How much did he know? "Maybe there's nothing to find," Linda said. "Maybe the old man sold it before he died." "No." Samantha's voice was firm. "Properties in Biltmore Forest don't just disappear. They're public record. I checked. There's a mansion there, 6.4 acres, owned by something called the RCS Trust, registered in 2019, same year the grandfather died. I felt sick. She'd already researched it, already connected the dots. "RCS," Linda repeated. "Robert Chen Sr.? Has to be." Samantha closed my laptop, frustrated. "But the trust documents aren't here. She's too smart to keep them in her apartment." "Then maybe we should stop," Linda said quietly. "This feels wrong, Samantha. She's been nothing but kind to you." Samantha turned to look at her mother, and even through the grainy camera footage, I could see the coldness in her face. Kind. She's sitting on millions while David and I struggle to pay rent. That's not kind. That's selfish. You don't know that she has millions. "A mansion in Biltmore Forest is worth at least $2 million, Mom," Probably more. And she's living in this. Samantha gestured around my small office with disgust, playing poor while she hoards everything. Linda didn't say anything for a long moment. Then, "What's your plan?" "Get David on board first. Make him see that his mother is hiding assets that rightfully belong to him. Then we push for transparency. If she won't cooperate, we explore other options." "What other options?" Samantha stood up, smoothing her dress. "Charles Harrison is 74 years old. He's been the grandfather's lawyer since the 70s. He won't live forever. When he's gone, we'll find someone more cooperative to manage the trust." My stomach turned. She was planning this. Actually planning to wait for Charles Harrison to die so she could manipulate the trust. They left at 8:24 p.m. I watched the footage 3 more times, making sure I hadn't missed anything. Each time, the anger in my chest grew hotter. But it was what happened 2 days later that really broke my heart. David came over for lunch on Thursday. He'd been doing that a lot lately, stopping by on his lunch break from work. I used to love those visits. Now every interaction felt contaminated. We ate sandwiches at my kitchen table, turkey and Swiss, his favorite since he was 8 years old. For 15 minutes we talked about normal things. His job, the weather, a movie he'd seen. Then he said, "Mom, can I ask you something?" The tone of his voice changed, became careful, rehearsed, of course. He set down his sandwich and looked at me directly. "Did Grandpa Robert leave you anything when he died? Besides the small inheritance you mentioned?" There it was, the question Samantha had planted. I met his eyes and lied to my son for the first time in his life. "Just what I told you, about $50,000. I put it in savings." "Nothing else? No property?" "No." "Why do you ask?" He shifted uncomfortably. "Sam was just wondering. She works in real estate, you know. She said sometimes elderly people don't realize the value of assets they inherit. Tax implications, maintenance costs. She thought maybe you might want help reviewing your finances. Elderly people. I was 67 years old, and my daughter-in-law was calling me elderly, implying I was too senile to manage my own money. That's thoughtful," I said evenly. "But I'm fine. My finances are simple." "Are you sure? Because Sam said—" "I'm sure, David." He looked frustrated. Actually frustrated that I wasn't accepting his wife's interference. "Mom, she's trying to help. We both are. You don't have to be so defensive." "I'm not being defensive. I'm telling you I don't need help." He stood up, pushing his chair back harder than necessary. "Fine. I was just trying to look out for you." "I know you were." But as I watched him leave, I realized something that made me feel hollow inside. David wasn't trying to look out for me. He was trying to look out for himself. Or more accurately, Samantha had convinced him that looking out for his own interests meant questioning mine. My son, who used to call me every Sunday just to chat, who used to bring me flowers on Mother's Day, was now interrogating me about my finances at his wife's instruction. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what Samantha had said on the camera footage. Get David on board first. She was systematically turning my son against me. And it was working. At 2:30 a.m., I got up and made tea. Sat at my kitchen table in the darkness. The apartment felt too quiet, too empty. For the first time since my husband died 6 years ago, I felt truly alone. My phone buzzed. A text message from David. "Sorry I got frustrated today. Sam and I just worry about you. That's all." I stared at those words. Sam and I. They were a unit now, and I was the outsider. I typed back, "I know. I love you." He didn't respond. The next morning, Friday, I called Charles Harrison's office. His secretary put me through immediately. "Margaret," he said warmly. "How are you? I need to talk to you about the trust. In person. It's urgent." There was a pause. "Is everything all right?" "No," I said. "Everything is not all right." We scheduled a meeting for Monday at 10 a.m. 3 days away. 3 days to decide exactly what I was going to tell him, how much I was going to reveal, because the camera had shown me the truth. Samantha wasn't just curious about my finances. She was actively hunting for information, bringing her mother in as an accomplice, manipulating my son into questioning me. And the worst part, I couldn't tell David what I knew. If I told him I'd installed a camera, if I showed him footage of his wife breaking into my office, he wouldn't believe me. Or worse, he'd defend her. He'd say I was being paranoid, that I'd misunderstood, that Samantha was just trying to help. I was trapped between protecting myself and protecting my relationship with my son. On Sunday afternoon, my phone rang. Samantha's name appeared on the screen. I almost didn't answer. But not answering would seem suspicious. "Hi, Margaret," she said brightly. "David and I were thinking of stopping by tomorrow morning. Maybe around 10. I wanted to talk to you about something." 10 a.m., exactly when I had my meeting with Charles Harrison. "Tomorrow's not good," I said. "I have a doctor's appointment." "Oh, nothing serious, I hope. Just a checkup. Well, maybe Tuesday then. It's important. It's about David's future, our future." The way she said "our future" made my skin crawl. "I'll call you," I said. After I hung up, I sat very still. She was escalating. The office search, getting David to question me, now wanting to talk about something important. She was building up to something, and I needed to be ready. That night, I reviewed the camera footage one more time, watched Samantha rifle through my files, watched Linda photograph my documents, watched my daughter-in-law call me selfish for not handing over money she had no right to, and I made a decision. I wasn't going to be the victim here. I wasn't going to let her take anything from me, and I certainly wasn't going to let her destroy my relationship with my son. Tomorrow, I would talk to Charles Harrison. I would tell him everything. And then I would figure out exactly how to protect myself. Because at 3:17 in the morning on June 13th, Samantha had declared war. She just didn't know I was finally ready to fight back. Charles Harrison's office smelled like old books and lemon furniture polish. I'd been there only twice before. Once when Robert Sr. died. Once to sign the trust papers. Now, sitting across from his mahogany desk, I felt like I was confessing something shameful. "She broke into my apartment," I said. "Twice that I know of. And she brought her mother the second time." Charles leaned back in his leather chair. He was 74 but sharp as ever, with white hair and reading glasses that hung on a chain around his neck. "Do you have proof?" I pulled out my phone and showed him the camera footage. He watched silently, his expression growing darker with each passing second. "This is a serious violation," he said when it finished. "Have you filed a police report?" "No. She's my daughter-in-law, David's wife. If I call the police, I destroy any chance of fixing this. Margaret, she's searching for documents related to a trust worth over $3 million. That's not a family disagreement. That's potential fraud." $3 million. The number had gone up since 2019. Property values in Biltmore Forest had skyrocketed. "I need to know if she's contacted you," I said, "or tried to access information about the trust." Charles was quiet for a moment. Then he opened his desk drawer and pulled out a file. 3 weeks ago, I received a call from an attorney named Michael Torres. He said he was representing David Chen in matters related to the RCS Trust. He wanted copies of all trust documents and current property valuations. My stomach dropped. David hired a lawyer. I told Mr. Torres that David wasn't a beneficiary yet, so he had no legal standing to request documents. He pushed back, suggested there might be questions about the trust's validity. I shut that down quickly, but then last week, he called again. What did he want? He asked about my retirement plans, when I intended to step down as trustee. Who would replace me? Charles looked at me over his glasses. Margaret, someone is building a strategy here, and they're being patient about it. I thought about what Samantha had said on the camera. When he's gone, we'll find someone more cooperative. David didn't tell me he hired a lawyer, I said quietly. Are you certain David hired him? Or did his wife? That was the question, wasn't it? How much was David involved, and how much was he being manipulated? Charles folded his hands on the desk. Robert Sr. put specific protections in this trust for a reason. He knew money could corrupt. He wanted David to earn his inheritance through character, not just by existing. And he wanted you protected first. What happens if they keep pushing? Nothing. The trust is ironclad. I structured it myself. Even if they sued, which would be expensive and futile, they'd lose. The only way this trust changes is if you die, or if the Board of Trustees unanimously agrees to early distribution based on David's demonstrated moral character. What qualifies as moral character? Charles gave me a long look. Respecting his mother would be a good start. I left his office at 11:15 with more questions than answers. David had hired an attorney, or Samantha had hired one in his name. Either way, the attacks were escalating from personal invasion to legal maneuvering. My phone rang as I was unlocking my car. David. Mom, where are you? Running errands. Why? Sam and I are at your apartment. We wanted to talk to you. It's important. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. I told Samantha I wasn't available today. I know, but this can't wait. Please, Mom, just come home. Something in his voice made my chest ache. He sounded stressed, desperate almost. I'll be there in 20 minutes. The drive back felt like going to an execution. My own execution. When I opened my apartment door, they were sitting on my couch. David looked uncomfortable, fidgeting with his phone. Samantha looked calm and composed in a white blouse and black pants. Professional. Like this was a business meeting. Hi, Margaret, she said. Thanks for coming. We know you're busy. I set my purse down and stayed standing. What's this about? David stood up. Mom, sit down, please. I'm fine standing. He exchanged a glance with Samantha. She nodded slightly like she was giving him permission to continue. That small gesture told me everything. She was running this show. We've been talking, David said, about your living situation, about your age, and your health. My health is fine. You're almost 70, Mom. You live alone. What if something happens? What if you fall? Or have a medical emergency? I have a phone. I have neighbors. I'm a retired nurse. I think I can manage. Samantha leaned forward, her voice gentle. Practiced. Margaret, we're not criticizing you. We're worried. David loves you so much, and we both want to make sure you're safe. I am safe. Are you? She tilted her head slightly. Because I've noticed some things. Small things. You forgot our dinner plans 2 weeks ago. You seemed confused when I mentioned the wedding photographer's name. Little memory lapses. I stared at her. I didn't forget dinner. You changed the date and didn't tell me. And I never met the photographer. You handled all of that. See, that's what concerns me, she said softly. You're misremembering events. It's completely normal at your age, but it's something we should address. David wouldn't meet my eyes. He was letting her say these things, letting her paint me as confused and forgetful. I'm not misremembering anything, I said. My voice came out harder than I intended. And I don't appreciate being ambushed in my own home. This isn't an ambush, David said quickly. We just want to discuss options. There are wonderful communities for seniors, places where you'd have support, activities, people your own age. You want to put me in a home. Not a home, Samantha said. A community. We've been researching places. There's one called Sunrise Gardens that's absolutely beautiful. Private apartments, meal service, medical staff on site. I looked at my son. Really looked at him. Is this what you want, David? To send your mother away? That's not what this is, he said, but his voice cracked slightly. Then what is it? Samantha answered for him. It's about being realistic. You're living on a fixed income. This apartment costs $1,400 a month. Sunrise Gardens has income-based pricing. You could actually save money and have a better quality of life. She'd researched my rent, probably my entire financial situation. I wondered what else she knew, what else she'd dug up. And this apartment? I asked, what happens to it? We could help you break the lease, Samantha said. Store your furniture. Make the transition as smooth as possible. The transition. She made it sound like a favor, but what she really meant was, get you out of this apartment, away from your independence, somewhere we can control you. I'm not moving, I said. David stood up. Mom, just think about it. We're not asking you to decide today. I'm deciding now. I'm not moving. Samantha's expression shifted, just slightly. The gentleness disappeared, replaced by something colder. David, maybe your mom needs some time to process this. Why don't we give her space? No, David said. Mom, we need to talk about something else too. About Grandpa's estate. Here it was, the real reason for this meeting. What about it? Sam thinks maybe you didn't get proper legal advice when he died. That maybe there were assets you didn't know about. We found a lawyer who specializes in estate disputes. Michael Torres. He said he'd be happy to review everything. Make sure you weren't taken advantage of. I felt something crack inside me. David thought I'd been taken advantage of. David thought I was too stupid or too senile to handle my own father-in-law's estate. I had excellent legal advice, I said, from Charles Harrison. Who's 74 years old? Samantha interjected. And probably not up to date on current estate law. He's been practicing law for 50 years. Exactly, she said. Maybe it's time for a fresh perspective. I looked at David. Did you hire Michael Torres? He hesitated. Sam reached out to him, but I agreed it was a good idea. Oh, and how much is this fresh perspective going to cost? He works on contingency, Samantha said smoothly. He only gets paid if he recovers assets for you. It's completely risk-free. Risk-free, except for the risk of them discovering the mansion, the trust, everything I'd kept hidden to protect David from becoming exactly what he was becoming. Greedy. I don't need Michael Torres, I said. I don't need Sunrise Gardens. I don't need any of this. Mom, David started. No, I want you both to leave. Now. Samantha stood up slowly. Margaret, I understand you're upset. Change is hard. But we're family now. And family looks out for each other. Family doesn't break into each other's apartments at 3 a.m. The words were out before I could stop them. The room went silent. David looked confused. What are you talking about? I'd said too much, but I was too angry to care anymore. Ask your wife what she was doing in my bedroom on June 13th at 3:17 a.m. Ask her why she was going through my private documents. Samantha's face went pale, then flushed. I have no idea what you're talking about. David, your mother is clearly confused. I'm not confused. I saw you. You were sleeping, she said. How could you have seen me? Because I woke up and watched you photograph my will. David looked between us. Mom, are you serious? You think Sam broke in here? I know she did. She had your spare key. That's insane, Samantha said. David, this is exactly what I was worried about. These paranoid delusions. She needs help. I'm not delusional. But David was looking at me like I was a crazy old woman making up stories about his perfect wife. Maybe we should go, Samantha said to David. Let her calm down. They walked to the door. David turned back. Mom, I think you should call your doctor. Talk to someone about what you're experiencing. We can help you find... Get out. After they left, I locked the door and leaned against it. My whole body was shaking. I'd played it wrong. I'd let my anger take over. And now David thought I was losing my mind. Exactly what Samantha wanted him to think. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw David's face. The way he'd looked at me like I was a stranger. Like I was the problem. At 6 a.m, I called Charles Harrison's cell phone. He answered on the third ring, voice groggy. Margaret, what's wrong? I need your help. They're scheduling a meeting with that attorney, Michael Torres. They want me to sign papers, review documents. I need you there. When? Tuesday. 2 p.m. They haven't told me where yet. There was a pause. Do they know you're bringing representation? No. And I'm not going to tell them. Good. His voice was sharper now, more awake. Let them think you're coming alone. Let them think they've won. Then we'll show them exactly what kind of mistake they've made. We talked for 20 minutes, building a strategy. Charles would attend as my attorney. He'd bring copies of the trust documents, proof of its validity, evidence of Robert Sr.'s sound mind when he created it. If Torres tried any legal maneuvering, Charles would shut it down immediately. One more thing, Charles said before hanging up. I'm going to have my associate run a background check on Torres. If Samantha hired him, I want to know their connection. Monday dragged by like a funeral. I tried to keep busy. Cleaned my apartment, went grocery shopping, did laundry. Normal things that felt completely abnormal now. At 3 p.m, my phone buzzed. A text from Samantha. Meeting with Michael Torres tomorrow at his office. 2 p.m, address, 847 Patton Avenue, Suite 210. Please don't be late. This is important for your future. My future. As if she gave a damn about my future. I texted back. I'll be there. Then I forwarded the address to Charles. That evening David called. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mom. His voice was strained. About yesterday. I'm sorry if we upset you. Okay. I'm sorry we upset you, but I'm worried about you. The things you said about Sam, they're not true. And I'm starting to think maybe you need to see someone. A doctor. Someone who can help. I don't need a doctor, David. Mom, you accused my wife of breaking into your apartment. That's a serious accusation. If you really believe that happened, if you're really seeing things that aren't real, that's not normal. My chest tightened. I'm not seeing things. It happened. Then why didn't you call the police? Why didn't you tell me right away? You waited almost 2 weeks, and then just blurted it out during an argument. That's not how someone reacts to an actual break-in. He had a point. A rational point. And that's what made this so insidious. Samantha had been careful. She'd used David's key, so technically it wasn't breaking and entering. She'd put everything back, so there was no evidence of theft. And by waiting to confront her, I'd made myself look unstable. I'll see you tomorrow at the meeting, I said. We can discuss it then. You're still coming, even after everything? I said I would. Okay, good. I think once you hear what Mr. Torres has to say, you'll understand we're trying to help. After he hung up, I sat in the silence of my apartment and let myself feel the full weight of what was happening. My son thought I was losing my mind. He was taking his wife's side completely, and tomorrow they were going to present me with some legal scheme designed to access Robert Sr.'s trust. But they didn't know I had Charles Harrison. They didn't know I had proof. They didn't know the trust was ironclad. Let them think they'd won. Let them get comfortable. Tuesday morning I dressed carefully. A simple navy dress, comfortable shoes, my mother's pearl necklace. I wanted to look put together, but not defensive, like someone who had nothing to hide. Charles called at noon. I found something interesting about Michael Torres. He graduated from law school in 2019. He's been practicing for 4 years. And guess where he went to college? Where? University of South Carolina. Same school as Samantha. Same graduating class, 2008. They knew each other. So Torres wasn't a neutral attorney David had found. He was Samantha's college friend, brought in specifically to help her scheme. Does David know? I asked. I doubt it. Torres's website makes him look legitimate. Estate planning, elder law, probate disputes. But his bar record shows mostly small claims and traffic violations. He's not qualified for complex trust litigation. Good. Let him try. I arrived at Torres's office at 1:55 p.m. The building was modest, older, sandwiched between a dental office and a tax preparation service. Suite 210 was on the second floor, marked with a simple nameplate. Michael Torres, attorney at law. The waiting room was small, cheap furniture, outdated magazines. A young receptionist looked up when I entered. Margaret Chen? They're waiting for you in the conference room. My heart was pounding as I followed her down a narrow hallway. She opened a door and I stepped inside. David and Samantha sat on one side of a long table. Michael Torres sat at the head, a slim man in his late 30s with styled hair and an expensive suit that didn't quite fit the shabby office. He stood when I entered, extending his hand. Mrs. Chen, thank you for coming. I'm Michael Torres. I shook his hand. His grip was too firm, trying too hard. Nice to meet you. Please, sit. He gestured to a chair across from David and Samantha. Can I get you water? Coffee? I'm fine. Samantha smiled at me, that same bright fake smile. Thanks for being here, Margaret. We know this is difficult. Torres opened a folder in front of him. Mrs. Chen, your son and daughter-in-law have asked me to review your late father-in-law's estate. They're concerned that you may not have received proper legal guidance during the probate process. I had Charles Harrison, I said. Yes, I'm aware of Mr. Harrison, but with all due respect, he's quite elderly now. There are often complexities in estate law that older attorneys miss. New tax implications, updated trust structures. Charles Harrison structured the trust himself in 2019. That's not that long ago. Torres smiled patiently. Let me ask you this, Mrs. Chen. Do you know the full extent of what your father-in-law left you? Yes. Are you certain? Because property records show that Robert Chen Sr. owned significant real estate in Biltmore Forest, a mansion assessed at over $3 million. Were you aware of that property? There it was. The trap they'd set. They'd researched the property, connected it to Robert Sr., and now they wanted me to either lie about it or admit I'd been hiding it. Before I could answer, there was a knock at the door. The receptionist opened it. Excuse me, Mr. Torres. There's a Charles Harrison here. He says he's representing Mrs. Chen. The room went silent. David's eyes widened. Samantha's face drained of color. Torres looked confused. I didn't know you were bringing counsel, he said. You didn't ask. Charles Harrison walked in, and I'd never been so happy to see anyone in my life. He was wearing a 3-piece suit, carrying a leather briefcase, every inch the experienced attorney. Good afternoon, he said pleasantly. I'm Charles Harrison, Mrs. Chen's legal representative and trustee of the RCS Trust. I believe you've been asking questions about my client's assets, Mr. Torres. Torres recovered quickly. I was simply trying to help Mrs. Chen understand. Understand what? That her son and daughter-in-law hired a friend from college to intimidate an elderly woman into revealing confidential trust information? Charles set his briefcase on the table. Because that's what this looks like to me. Friend from college? David said. He looked at Samantha. What's he talking about? Samantha's jaw tightened. That's not relevant. It's extremely relevant, Charles said. He pulled out a document and slid it across the table. Michael Torres, University of South Carolina, class of 2008. Samantha Whitmore, same school, same class. Roommate of Torres's girlfriend junior year. They're friends on Facebook, LinkedIn, and attended each other's social events as recently as last year. David stared at the document, then at his wife. You knew him? You told me you found him through a referral. I did find him through a referral, she said, from someone I knew in college. That doesn't change anything. It changes everything, David said quietly. You lied to me. Torres tried to regain control. Mr. Harrison, my relationship with Mrs. Torres Chen is irrelevant to the matter at hand. We're here to discuss. There's nothing to discuss, Charles interrupted. The RCS trust is valid, irrevocable, and properly structured. Mrs. Chen is the primary beneficiary with lifetime rights. Her son David will inherit upon her death, provided he meets specific character requirements outlined by the trust creator. Requirements that, I might add, he is currently failing spectacularly. Character requirements? David's voice was barely a whisper. Charles looked at him directly. Your grandfather required that you demonstrate moral integrity, respect for your mother, and independence from financial manipulation. This meeting violates all three. The silence that followed was crushing. I watched my son's face as understanding dawned. He looked at Samantha, then at Torres, then at me. Mom, he said, did you know about the mansion, about the trust? Yes. For how long? Since your grandfather died, 4 years. And you never told me? Because he didn't want me to. He wanted you to build your own life first. David stood up abruptly, his chair scraping back. So all this time, while Sam and I struggled to pay rent, while we worried about money, you were sitting on $3 million. It's not my money to give you, David. It's held in trust, and you'll receive it when I die, if you deserve it. If I deserve it? His voice rose. Who decides that? You? A board of trustees, Charles said, of which I am one. And based on today's actions, I can tell you that early distribution is not something we'd currently consider. Samantha finally found her voice. This is ridiculous. David is his grandson. He has rights. He has conditional future rights, Charles corrected, which he may forfeit through his own behavior. David was shaking now. Whether from anger or shock, I couldn't tell. He looked at me like I was a stranger. I can't believe you hid this from me. I can't believe you hired your wife's college friend to intimidate your mother, I said back. We stared at each other across the table, 4 years of trust, shattered in an afternoon. David walked out of Michael Torres's office without saying another word. Samantha followed him, but not before turning back to look at me. Her expression wasn't angry. It was calculating, like she was already planning her next move. Charles and I stayed behind. Torres was shuffling papers, trying to maintain some dignity after being exposed as a fraud. This meeting is over, Charles told him. And if you contact Mrs. Chen again, I'll file a complaint with the State Bar. You can explain to them why you failed to disclose your personal relationship with one of the parties. Torres's jaw tightened. I didn't do anything illegal. No, just unethical, which is sometimes worse. We left him sitting there in his cheap conference room, probably wondering how badly this would hurt his barely started career. In the parking lot, Charles walked me to my car. Are you all right? I don't know. David's in shock right now. Give him time to process. What if he chooses her? Charles was quiet for a moment. Then he proves your father-in-law was right to put conditions on the inheritance. But I don't think he will. I saw his face when he realized she'd lied to him. I drove home alone. The afternoon felt surreal. Everything had happened so fast. One minute I was sitting across from my son. The next I was watching Charles dismantle Samantha's entire scheme, in front of everyone. But the look on David's face haunted me. The betrayal in his eyes. Not betrayal because of what Samantha had done, but betrayal because I'd kept secrets. Was I wrong? Should I have told him about the trust from the beginning? I was making dinner at 6:30 when someone knocked on my door. I looked through the peephole and saw David standing in the hallway, alone. I opened the door. He looked terrible. His hair was messy, his shirt wrinkled. His eyes were red. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside. He walked past me into the living room and just stood there, hands in his pockets, staring at nothing. "Sam's at her mother's," he said finally. "She said I needed to choose, her or you." My chest tightened. "And?" "I told her I needed time to think. She said that was the same as choosing you. So she left." He turned to look at me. "Mom, why didn't you tell me about the mansion?" I sat down in my armchair. "Because your grandfather didn't want me to." "But why?" "Because he wanted you to succeed on your own. He didn't want you to spend your life waiting for an inheritance, making choices based on money you hadn't earned yet." "That wasn't his decision to make. Or yours. Yes, it was. It was exactly his decision. He created the trust. He set the terms." David ran a hand through his hair. $3 million, Mom. Do you know what that would have meant for us? Sam and I could have bought a house. We could have paid off her debts. We could have— "Her debts?" I interrupted. "What debts?" He went quiet. "David, what debts does Samantha have?" "It's not important." "It's clearly important enough that she's been tearing my life apart, looking for money." He sank onto the couch, elbows on his knees, head in his hands. $22,000 in credit card debt, from before we met. She said she had it under control, but the payments are killing us. 22,000. No wonder she'd been so desperate to find hidden assets. "Why didn't you tell me you were struggling?" "Because Sam said we needed to handle our own problems, that we couldn't keep running to you for help." He looked up at me. "She said you'd think less of me if you knew I couldn't support my own wife." "I would never think less of you." "But you hid millions from me. You let me struggle when you could have helped." "The trust money isn't mine to give, David. It has rules. And even if it didn't, your grandfather was right. You needed to build your own life. Instead, I built someone else's life." His voice cracked. "Sam wanted that apartment, the nice building. She wanted new furniture, expensive dinners. I kept saying we couldn't afford it, but she'd say we were investing in our future. That appearances matter. That we needed to look successful to be successful. I wanted to go to him, to hug him like I did when he was a child. But something held me back. He needed to say this, all of it." "Today, after we left Torres's office, we had the worst fight we have ever had," he continued. "I asked her why she didn't tell me she knew Torres. She said it didn't matter, that I was focusing on the wrong thing. Then I asked her about the key to your apartment." My breath caught. She admitted it. She said she'd been here a few times when you were out, looking through your files. She said it was for our future, that you were hiding assets that legally belonged to our family. He looked at me with tears in his eyes. "Mom, I swear I didn't know. I didn't know she was doing that." "But you knew she wanted to put me in a home." He nodded miserably. "She'd been talking about it for weeks. Said you'd be happier with people your own age. That this apartment was too expensive. She made it sound like we were helping you. And you believed her. I wanted to believe her, because believing her was easier than believing my wife was manipulating me. We sat in silence for a long moment. Outside, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across my living room. "She's going to leave me," David said quietly. "When she realizes the money's really gone, that there's no way to get it, she'll leave. Maybe that's for the best. Maybe." He wiped his eyes. "But it still hurts. I really loved her, Mom. Or I thought I did. Now I don't know what was real." My phone buzzed on the coffee table, a text from an unknown number. "Tell David I'm sorry it came to this, but he needs to understand that family means loyalty. If he chooses you, he loses me, and any chance at a decent future. The debts I have are nothing compared to what he'll owe if we divorce. Think about that." I showed David the message. He read it twice, his face hardening. "Is that a threat?" "Yes." He stood up abruptly and started pacing. "I can't believe this. She's threatening you. She's threatening me. David, you need to make a choice, not because she's forcing you to, but because you need to decide what kind of person you want to be. I already know what kind of person I want to be. I want to be the kind of man Grandpa Robert thought I could be, the kind who deserves that trust." He stopped pacing and looked at me, but I screwed it up, didn't I? I failed his test. Not yet. Not if you fix it. How? By standing up to her. By protecting yourself and your family. By showing that you can recognize manipulation when you see it. He was quiet for a long time. Then he pulled out his phone and started typing. "What are you doing?" "Texting Sam, telling her I want a divorce." "David, wait. Think about this. I have thought about it. I've been thinking about it since the second Charles Harrison exposed her lies. She married me because she thought I'd inherit millions. She's been using me from the start. And I'm done." He hit send. Then he sat back down on the couch and dropped his phone on the cushion beside him. "Can I stay here tonight? Just tonight? I can't go back to the apartment yet." "Of course you can." His phone started ringing immediately. Samantha's name flashed on the screen. He declined the call. It rang again. He declined again. Then the texts started coming, one after another. "David, don't do this. We can work this out. You're making a mistake. Think about what you're giving up. Your mother is poisoning you against me." He turned the phone face down. "I should have seen it earlier. The way she always had an excuse for why we couldn't visit you. The way she'd get upset when you called. She was isolating me from you. And I let her. You didn't know. I should have known. You're my mother. I should have trusted you." We ordered Chinese food and ate it at my kitchen table. Just like we used to when he was younger, before Samantha, before everything got complicated. He told me about work, about a project he was excited about. Normal conversation, safe conversation. But around 9 p.m., someone started pounding on my door. "David, I know you're in there. Open the door." Samantha's voice, loud enough that my neighbors would hear. David stood up. "I'll handle this." "No, let me." I went to the door but didn't open it. "Samantha, you need to leave." "I need to talk to my husband." "Your husband doesn't want to talk to you. He doesn't know what he wants. You've been manipulating him, filling his head with lies." I almost laughed. The irony was stunning. I'm not the one who hired a college friend to intimidate an elderly woman. I'm not the one who broke into this apartment to steal documents. I never stole anything. You violated my privacy. Repeatedly. The pounding stopped. When she spoke again, her voice was different, colder. "You're going to regret this, Margaret. I'll make sure David never speaks to you again. I'll tell everyone what kind of person you really are. Selfish, hoarding money while your own son struggles. Good luck with that." I'm serious. You think you've won, but you haven't. I'll fight the trust. I'll find lawyers who actually know what they're doing. I'll make your life hell." David appeared beside me. He opened the door. Samantha stood in the hallway, her hair disheveled, mascara smudged. She looked at him hopefully. "David, go home, Sam. Baby, please, we can fix this." "There's nothing to fix. It's over." Her expression shifted from pleading to furious in an instant. "You're choosing her? After everything. She lied to you for 4 years. And you lied to me from the beginning. At least Mom was trying to protect me. What were you trying to do?" Samantha's mouth opened and closed. No answer came. "Go home," David repeated. "My lawyer will contact you about divorce proceedings." She stared at him for a long moment. Then she turned and walked away without another word. David closed the door and locked it. His hands were shaking. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "For what?" "For all of it. For not seeing who she was. For doubting you. For putting you through this." I pulled him into a hug. My son. My boy. He was 42 years old, but in that moment he felt like that child I'd raised alone after his father died. "We'll get through this," I told him. 6 months passed like water through fingers, fast and slow at the same time. David's divorce was finalized in December. Samantha fought it, of course. She wanted alimony, half of everything, compensation for emotional distress. Her lawyer painted her as the abandoned wife, cast aside after years of devotion. But Charles Harrison had documented everything. The break-ins, the camera footage, Michael Torres's conflict of interest, the threatening texts. In the end, Samantha got nothing. Just her $22,000 in debt and a reputation in Asheville that followed her everywhere. She moved to Charlotte in January. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she'd already found a new boyfriend. Someone older, wealthy. I hoped he was smarter than my son had been. David lived with me during the divorce. "Just temporarily," he said. But I didn't mind. It reminded me of the years after his father died, when it was just the two of us against the world. We fell into old rhythms. Dinner together most nights, Saturday morning pancakes, arguments about whose turn it was to do the dishes. He'd changed, become quieter, more thoughtful. He'd started seeing a therapist to understand how he'd been manipulated. Some nights I'd hear him on the phone with friends, explaining what happened. His voice always carried shame when he talked about it. "I should have seen it," he'd say. "The signs were all there." But that's the thing about manipulation. You can't see it when you're inside it. In January, something unexpected happened. Linda Whitmore, Samantha's mother, showed up at my apartment. She looked terrible, thin, exhausted, wearing clothes that had seen better days. She stood in my doorway, wringing her hands. "I need to talk to you," she said. "Please, just 5 minutes." I almost said no. But something in her face stopped me. She looked desperate. I let her in. She sat on the edge of my couch like she was afraid to get comfortable. "I'm sorry," she said immediately, "for everything. For helping Sam go through your things. For lying. For all of it." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because Sam's gone. She left Charlotte, moved somewhere out west. She won't talk to me. Won't return my calls." Linda's voice cracked. "She used me just like she used David. Made me think we were securing our family's future. And the second it fell apart, she threw me away. I should have felt vindicated, but I just felt sad. Sad that this woman had lost her daughter to greed. I lost my job," Linda continued. "Word got around about what we did. Small town, you know. No one wants to hire someone who helps their daughter rob elderly women." She laughed bitterly. "Not that we actually robbed you, but that's what people say." "What do you want from me?" "Nothing. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. That's all." She stood to leave, but at the door she turned back. "David's a good man. Don't let what Sam did make him hate himself forever. He deserves better than that." After she left, I sat for a long time thinking about karma, about how the universe has a way of balancing things out. Samantha had lost her husband, her reputation, her relationship with her mother. Linda had lost her job and her daughter. And me. I'd almost lost my son. But I hadn't. That was the miracle. In February, Charles Harrison called with news. "The trust board is meeting next week to discuss David's status. We need to vote on whether he qualifies for early distribution." "What do you think they'll decide?" "I think your son has shown remarkable growth. He made mistakes, but he corrected them. He's working hard, living responsibly, rebuilding his relationship with you. That demonstrates character." The meeting happened on a Tuesday. I wasn't allowed to attend since I was a beneficiary. David wasn't either. We just had to wait. Charles called me at 4 p.m. The board voted, unanimously in David's favor. My hands started shaking. What does that mean? "It means David will receive his inheritance when you pass away, as originally planned, but it also means we're removing some of the conditional restrictions. He's proven himself worthy of his grandfather's trust. Thank you, Charles. Don't thank me. Thank your son. He did the work." That night, I told David over dinner. He was quiet for a long time, staring at his plate. "Grandpa would be proud of you," I said. "I hope so. I wish I could thank him. Tell him I understand now why he did it the way he did." "I think he knows." We were cleaning up the dishes when my doorbell rang. A delivery man stood there with a large envelope. Certified mail from Harrison and Associates. I signed for it and brought it inside. The envelope was thick, heavy. David watched as I opened it. Inside was a letter from Charles and another sealed envelope. The sealed one had my name written on it, in handwriting I recognized immediately. Robert Sr.'s handwriting. My hands trembled as I read Charles's letter first. "Dear Margaret, the enclosed letter was given to me by Robert Chen Sr. in 2019, with specific instructions. It was to be delivered to you only after 2 conditions were met. First, that David face a significant test of character related to the trust. Second, that he pass that test. The board's unanimous vote last week satisfied the second condition. As trustee, I am honored to fulfill Robert's final request." I stared at the sealed envelope. Robert Sr. had written me a letter. 13 years after his death, he was still guiding us. "What does it say?" David asked softly. "I don't know." "Do you want me to open it?" He nodded. I carefully broke the seal and unfolded the pages inside. Robert Sr.'s handwriting was shaky but clear. He'd written this near the end of his life. "My dear Margaret," it began. "If you're reading this, it means David has faced temptation and overcome it. It means you've both survived the storm I knew was coming." I read aloud, my voice catching on certain words. "I didn't create this trust to be cruel. I created it because I knew what money does to people. I've seen it my whole life. Good people become greedy. Families destroy themselves fighting over inheritances. I didn't want that for David, but I also knew he'd need to be tested. Money without character is dangerous. Character without testing is untested. So I structured everything carefully, knowing that someday someone would try to manipulate him. Someone would see the money and want it. I hoped I was wrong. I hoped David would find a partner who loved him for himself. But if I was right, I wanted him to have the tools to recognize manipulation and reject it. Margaret, you've been the guardian of this test. You've kept the secret, protected the trust, and most importantly, you've allowed David to fail and recover. That took courage I know was painful. Now the test is complete, but there's one more thing you both need to know. The mansion in Biltmore Forest isn't the only property I own. I stopped reading, looked at David. He looked as shocked as I felt. "There's a second property," Robert Sr.'s letter continued. "A smaller house in Asheville on Montford Avenue. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Nothing fancy, but it's fully paid off, and it's been maintained by the trust for years. This house has a specific purpose. It's for David when he's ready to start over, when he's learned the lessons he needed to learn and is prepared to build a life based on his own values, not someone else's expectations. Margaret, as trustee, you can transfer this property to David at any time you deem appropriate. There are no conditions, no requirements. Just your judgment of when he's ready. I trust you both. I always have. With love, Robert Chen, Sr." The letter ended there. I set it down on the table with shaking hands. "There's another house," David whispered. "Grandpa left another house." I looked at my son. He was 42 years old. He'd been divorced, manipulated, nearly destroyed by greed. But he'd survived it. He'd chosen integrity over money, family over convenience. "When do you want it?" I asked. He shook his head. "I don't know if I'm ready. That's how I know you are." We sat in silence for a while. Outside, winter was beginning to soften into early spring. In a few weeks, the trees would start budding, life continuing its cycle. "Mom," David said eventually, "I've been thinking about something. When you do pass away, whenever that is, I don't think I want the mansion. I think I want to donate it." "Donate it?" "To a foundation, something that helps people who've been victims of financial elder abuse. Something that would have helped you if you'd needed it." He looked at me. "Grandpa wanted me to have character. I think that's what character looks like." My eyes filled with tears. "Your grandfather would love that idea." "But that's years from now. For now, maybe we could turn the Montford house into something good too. Rent it below market value to someone who needs a break. A single parent, maybe. Someone like you were after Dad died." I reached across the table and took his hand. "When did you get so wise? I learned from the best." That night, after David went to bed in the guest room, I sat alone in my living room. I thought about Robert Sr. and his careful planning, about how he'd protected us even after death, about how he'd known exactly what we'd need and when we'd need it. The mansion in Biltmore Forest still sat empty, waiting, worth over $3 million now. Someday it would serve a good purpose, but for now, it was just there. A safety net we didn't need but were grateful to have. The house on Montford Avenue was different. That was immediate, real, a gift we could use right now to help someone else. I pulled out my laptop and started researching. Nonprofits that helped single mothers, organizations that provided transitional housing. By morning, I had a list of 5 potential partners. David and I would figure it out together. How to use this unexpected blessing to create more blessings. 3 months later, on a warm day in May, I stood on the porch of the Montford Avenue house. It was smaller than I'd expected. Charming, with a blue door and white shutters. A young woman named Rachel was moving in today with her 7-year-old son. She'd left an abusive marriage with nothing. Now she had a safe place to rebuild. David was helping her carry boxes. I watched him laugh with her son, showing him the backyard, pointing out the tree that was perfect for climbing. My phone buzzed. A text from Charles Harrison. "The trust board met today regarding the mansion. Unanimous vote to approve your proposal for the Elder Protection Foundation. Robert would be proud." I smiled and put my phone away. Everything had come full circle. The secrets, the manipulation, the test, the redemption. And now, the next chapter. Not an ending, but a beginning. Because that's what Robert Sr. had really left us. Not just money or property, but the understanding that wealth means nothing without purpose. That family is built on trust, not transactions. That sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is the chance to prove who they really are. David walked over, wiping sweat from his forehead, ready to go. Actually, I want to stay a bit longer. Watch the sunset from this porch. Want company? Always. We sat side by side on the porch steps as the sun began to set. In my pocket, I felt the weight of one more envelope, the one that had arrived this morning from Charles Harrison's office. Additional conditions. Read together, it said on the outside. But I wasn't ready to open it yet. Whatever Robert Sr. had planned next, whatever final surprise or test or gift he'd left, it could wait. For now, this moment was enough. My son beside me, the house behind us full of hope, the future uncertain, but no longer frightening. Mom, David said quietly, whatever's in that envelope, we'll face it together, right? I looked at him, my son, my family, my proof that love survives even the hardest tests. Together, I agreed. And we sat there as the sun painted the sky in shades of gold and pink. Two people who'd been broken and had learned how to heal, holding an unopened letter that promised one more mystery. But mysteries, I'd learned, were just opportunities in disguise.